Uh, we just start now. Good evening, all. Good evening again. Today's class, we shall be looking at space planning and move management. Space planning and move management. Like I said earlier, my name is Osi Egbia here, and we shall be running through this course. I'll just go through the housekeeping and the preambles, and then we'll start off. Just by way of introduction of myself, I'm one of the facilitators for the Mastercraft program, and I'm an architect by training, and I've been at that for quite a while. In the built environment, I've had experiences in different spheres, worked in a real estate firm, worked in an architectural practice, worked in a construction company, also worked in an in a facility management company. These are just my two background. And at this stage, though I can see our names, so I'll just want everybody in this class today to please put their full names on the screen. Just change your username to your full names, your two names. I can say almost everybody has that, so we won't have a challenge with that. So I'll take that we will be able to relate based on that. And I'll just quickly take a round, selection round, to take a few persons to give us their take home for the last class that you had. You just have about 1 minute. I'll just call you randomly by way of getting ourselves into the mood for the class. So I'll call Daniel to please give us in 1 minute just your take home for the last class. Daniel, please. Mr. Daniel Zaki. Please unmute yourself. We cannot hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Your take home for the last class.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can go ahead.
Okay. I would like to apologize. I was not in the last class.
Oh.
Yes. Due to one or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take Tosin Oyewole. Tosin Oyewole, please. Unmute yourself and give us a brief into what your take home for the last class. Seun Oguntoye. Okay, I can see Michael Dada. Michael, sorry, your hand is up. Let's have your take home if you.
I was thinking if there is nobody who's ready to talk, maybe there will be a volunteer, and that is why I raised up my hand.
Please go ahead.
My name is Michael Dada. My take home last lecture was I'm an electrical engineer, and I thought it is only when we are having wiring, we have electrical code. Until we have that is the color code. Until we have last week, I mean, day before yesterday lecture, that I discovered that even in mops that we use in cleaning the ground, we have codes and we have color codes. Those color codes are for different environments. For example, we cannot use a mop using a toilet for a mop using a work environment. So that stick into my head last lecture.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good. Great take home. Adiola.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Hi, good
Sorry,
evening.
I wasn't at the last class.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Unduka Alexis. Unduka Alexis, please.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Okay, the last class actually exposed me to a lot of information as regards to cleaning and how we should also tend to respect those people that carry out such activities, because they are like they are normally we see them as common cleaners, but the lecture the last time really exposed me to the fact that it also boosts their morale when you give them that respect by calling them, giving them the training and also the exposure that they actually need to make their work more effective. And like my colleague just said, a lot of information as regards to the kind of mob we use and how to handle the chemicals that are being used for cleaning, like the cleaning agents. All those things at least really exposed me to a lot of that information. So I took a lot from that lecture.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, let's hear from Tony. Olaoye, Tony, please.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening.
My take home last lecture was basically on how to address the cleaners. We were told to address them as building custodians. And it really, made me understand that, okay, just like the last speaker said, my colleague, that it helps them to feel more important and, like it helps their morale in carrying out their duties.
Oh, great. Awesome, awesome. Okay, I can see Kingsley, your hand, so let me hear you, Kingsley, on your own.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, sorry, my background is a little bit noisy. I'm in the electrical. My take home for the last class is on cleaning. It really opened my eyes more to see the benefits and the importance of cleaning. It started with introducing cleaning, what importance does it have in the facility, which we saw a lot of importance of. One is saving the image of the facility or the facility company or even the company on its own. It promotes the quality and standard of the organization, and also a lot of things benefits of cleaning. And also it boils down to personal hygiene. And when we talk about cleaning and all that, what comes to your mind first is sweeping and all those things. It goes beyond that. You also say cleaning in your own personal hygiene. How do you keep yourself clean? Because cleaning, personal hygiene helps us, even because we are the first, those people we call the custodians, the cleaner. We also learned about different names, we call them custodians and all that. They are the first person who comes in contact with your visitors, your clients, and all that. And this speaks a lot about how the organization is being run. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. I would we'll hold it there for now and we'll just go straight up into the class. I'm seeing more hands. Okay, who am I seeing? Theophilus, let's hear you quickly. Theophilus, I can see your hand, so unmute yourself, Theophilus.
From the last lecture, I learned that instruction specifying is very, very important in the cleaning. That when you don't follow the instruction, you can mess up the whole work. That instruction is very, very important. As in, when you are asked to, if you don't follow the instruction as it being specified, you can mess up the work entirety. So instruction is very, very important. It's very, very vital as far as cleaning is concerned. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. Instruction is very important, and it's always good to adhere to instructions so that we could get things done. By way of objectives, this evening, we hope that at the end of the class, we'll be able to explain the need for proper space planning. And we also hope that you'll be able to identify the different space allocation options, which we're going to see. And also look at understanding move management, and then to be able to explain the key elements of the move process, the key elements of the move process. We're going to run through this course in 6 modules. We're going to have, first of all, an introduction, which we'll see in the next few seconds. We'll look at module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4, module 5, module 6. Will take us through the course line. Module 1 introduction basically talks about the way a space is planned always determine its use and its purpose. It is important that the facility manager knows the basic requirements for different spaces and it relates as it relates to its use. Now, one of the things that we must know as facility manager is that every space in itself has a particular use. And for example, if you go into a restaurant, even if there's nobody there, it's very likely that you know that that space is a restaurant. Probably if you are just renting a house for the first time and you want to go for inspection of that facility, most often than not, once you get into the facility, nobody needs to tell you to identify, let's say, the living room, the dining, or even the kitchen, the bathrooms, and the different spaces, the bedroom, and sometimes even to separate the different types of bedroom. You say, oh, this one is the master's bedroom. These are the other rooms, probably for children or for madam and all that. And most of the times, even without anybody telling you about these spaces, in your head, as you move into these spaces, you are able to identify these spaces because of the way those spaces are configured. It's because of this, that's why we say it's very important that you understand the purpose of a space. It is when you understand the purpose of a space that you know what that space is to be used for. And when you now know the use of that space, you will now be able to adequately plan and plan that space for the proper use. The efficient and effective way a space is used is key for a facility manager, as it helps him or her to know if the space is fully and well utilized. If the space is fully and well utilized. It's very important for the facility manager to be able to understand the way spaces are utilized. In most of our new generation offices, that now flexibility is becoming a key requirement as organizations are continually changing the way that they work. The facility manager needs to become familiar with the way organization is moving and then ask him or herself the following questions. This question as a facility manager, you're supposed to ask yourself as you look at the facility you are managing, especially when you are looking at office spaces, because one of the basic discussion we're having today is managing of office spaces and how to manage the space in the offices and how to allocate the space properly. One, is the present space well utilized? Do we reduce or increase the amount of spaces being used? That's one of the questions as a facility manager you must keep asking yourself, especially at the beginning of every year in your organization that you manage. After asking that first question, if you have some things that you need to attend to quickly, next question you probably ask yourself, is it possible to renegotiate the current lease in terms of pricing or other agreements? Once you see, oh, this space that we have to use, that we are using now, is getting too big for us. Is it possible for us to negotiate with the property managers to find out, or the property owners or the lease companies that lease in terms, you go to the lease agreement, you check it, look at the terms and conditions in the lease agreement, and if there are areas where you need to renegotiate it, is it possible for you to negotiate it so that you'll be able to do something with this excess space that you have? That's if you are not willing to leave that facility. However, if the reverse is also the case, if the space is too small and you need a bigger space, and you look at the space that you are presently occupying and say, oh, there's possibility for an expansion, you probably will need to go back to the lease agreement to find out if that possibility is captured in the lease agreement. If it is not, you probably need to find out and discuss with the property managers to see if that's possible and how you can renegotiate the lease agreement. Also, is the space still meeting the business needs and development of the organization? Does the location befits the business needs? There are things that you must know in terms of location. Module 2, quickly, need for space planning. We shall consider the need for space planning under the following headings. We look at legislations and standards. We also look at churn rates. We look at space utilization and then accommodation standards. For legislation, it talks about the minimum requirement for any space and the layout, how it relates, the statutory requirements as it relates to office layout. One, the minimum amount of space to be provided per staff member. It's very important for us to know that for every office space, for standard offices, especially for the open office, the minimum amount of space that's being covered by an individual that also have circulation as part of the space that the individual is supposed to occupy is normally between 2.8 to 3 meters square, 2.8 to 3 square meters. That's what an individual is supposed to be able to utilize for standard office. Now, you also look at the fire safety arrangement. How safe is that particular space you're talking about in terms of the office space? Do you have enough firefighting equipment there? Do you also have enough fire alarm system? It's very important to have fire detection and firefighting. Those are two very important items that you must always ensure that you have in any space that you are working. The fire alarm system will trigger up when there is a fire. And once that trigger is up, everybody will scuttle and run for safety. While the firefighting facility helps you to fight or do like a first aid in terms of the fire. Sometimes the first aid may just be adequate to put out that danger. But sometimes if it's not adequate, you may need to now get assistance from external body, that is the firefighting services, which will always be on ground to welcome you at any point in time. Also, you look at the lighting level of the space. Is the office space well lit or is not well lit? We must understand that an office, most offices needs to be bright. The lighting of offices need to be bright so that people can work. When the light is too dim, it normally affects the productivity of the workers and also translates to a lot of them feeling a lot of time very sleepy in the office, and then that will end up affecting productivity. Look at the signages. In case there's an emergency, how easy can people get out of that space? The signage is very important. Signage helps you understand how you move when there's an emergency, the pattern of movement, and also identify the different spaces in the office, the MD's office, the accountant office, the admin office, the kitchenette, the toilets, the male and female toilets, the conference room, the meeting rooms, depending on how the nomenclature goes. It's very important that the signages are placed and they're very legible for people to be able to read the exit signs and the different information that is supposed to be distributed by signage in the office spaces. Also look at the ventilation of the space. Is it possible where you probably have good air quality within that space to be able to allow people stay in the space without falling sick or being sleepy because of lack of supply of enough oxygen into that space. So it's very important for these things to be noted and then taken care of as is required. And also, you also look at the thermal control, temperature control. Temperature control help you to manage the space, the temperature within the office space to ensure that people are comfortable enough to work. Imagine working in a space where there is air conditioning system are not working. I'm sure you spend half of the time trying to make yourself comfortable, looking for fan or fanning yourself. And once you do that, you discover that you are no longer productive, and then you won't be able to do the things you're supposed to do. Also, look at the welfare arrangement, which has to do with the toileting system and also the vending system, which where you need to snack and all that in the office, or having something like a kitchenette or a tea point where you can quickly make a coffee and grab coffee while you work in the office. Another thing we'll probably look at is, apart from the registration and standards, we also look at churn rate. Churn rate. In many organizations, office layouts are subject to frequent changes. The process is referred to as churn rate, and it is expressed by the percentage of the staff move during the year. A measure of a number of staff moving out of an organization over a specific period of time. It is one of the primary factors that determines the steady state level of staff in the organization and the organization can't support. The amount of staff of who cut ties with the organization during a given period of time. It simply implies that these staffs have churned, especially when they leave. Now, for churn rate, we look at both horizontal and vertical churn. Horizontal churn is when people are leaving the organization in a very rapid manner. And vertical churn is when you have a lot of promotion going on in the office, when people move very fast from one level to the other in the offices. Now, that in terms of vertical churn is not always very popular. People don't move that fast, but horizontal churn, when people are leaving the organization, that sometimes that companies just get into that mood, into that season where a lot of their staffs will just leave them. And then they will now be challenged with the responsibility to either replace them or to make do with what they have for that moment. But whichever it is, as you as the facility manager, you are supposed to be able to plan and ensure that you have the adequate data with you at all times. And you're supposed to track that every year to understand and say, oh, at the beginning of 2021, we had about 100 staff. At the end of 2021, going into 2022, we have only just 80 staffs. Now, how do you manage that? You need to be able to understand how to manage that. How does that affect the organization? Sometimes you need to go and ask management and find out if management is downsizing technically, or it's just taking a due course, or things are not just working the way it should. And those kind of concerns you can raise with the HR department. Space utilization. This refers to a measure of whether and how space is being used. The utilization rate is a function of a frequency rate and an occupancy rate. Frequency rate measures the proportion of time that staffs use space compared to its ability. Now, there are sometimes some offices where they have a lot of marketers. And once you have a lot of marketers don't sit in the office. They're always out there. They go out during the day, go out for marketing activities, and probably come back in the evening to prepare their report. Now, for utilization space, you look at how frequently and these marketers actually come to the office and use the office facility. If you have about let's say 20 workers that are marketers, and those 20 workers only spend 1 hour in the office every day, of what use do you need having 20 redundant workstations that nobody uses and the facility is there? That means you are under using that facility and that space It also looks at the occupancy rate measures, how full the space is compared to its capacity. You look at the capacity of a space. If a space is supposed to take or house about 200 staffs, and then is housing about 220 or 210, you know that it's gone beyond its capacity, and it's something you need to look at to ensure that you do not cause any hazard to the building or to the occupants that are using the building. Utilization rate can be assessed in terms of both actual size and predicted size of the space, both actual size and predicted size of the space. Measure office space utilization. Real estate and related office spaces costs are typically the second largest expense in an organization. Now you're talking about the rental cost, or in terms of the building cost of any organization. That's the second largest expense in the organization, and is also second to the labor's cost. That's the general salary that is being paid to the worker, due to the factor that such as workers' mobility and long-term lease and business fluctuation. These occupancy costs are commonly found to be 20% to 50% higher than necessary. When you have this cost, when you amortize this cost together of the real estate and then the labor cost or the salaries that you are paying, you discover it falls between 20% to 50% or even more than at a regular basis, depending on what you are looking at. Also, the space utilization plan also helps us to establish a baseline of the current utilization of the space. How do you manage the space? How do you ensure that the space is properly managed? And also consolidate the location and renewing lease for just in need spaces. There are sometimes that when you have the option of reducing the space that you have, and probably when you are renewing your lease, instead of taking maybe initially you are occupying about 500 square meters of office space, when you discover that you have lost so many of your staff and management is not looking at employing more persons, then you have probably an occupancy of like maybe 300 square meters of space. The remaining 200, if you are paying rent over that 500, that means you are incurring a loss of 200 square meter payments being made to the property owners, because you have lost the number of staffs that is to occupy that particular space. Sometimes if you have a lease, sublease agreement in your lease occupation agreement, you will be able to cut out that space and let it out to somebody else, so that it will help to reduce your cost and also make that space more viable, as it were. And then also look at maximizing the use of the remaining space to maintain productivity and competitive advantage. There are times where you are sure that you have enough circulation space and the offices are spread enough, so that when activities are going in a particular space, you are able to compare it to the other one. Optimization of optimizing the use of the remaining spaces. You will calculate all the spaces and take the dead spaces and use them to your advantage. For instance, if you are paying so much for a real estate space, and then at the end of the day, let's say you rent a space and you're paying like 250,000 per square meter. And then out of that, you probably rented about 10 square meters. Out of that 10 square meters, you now use 2 meters for storage. To be storing used and old computers that you never use again, which is often the case. At the end of the day, that's been found penny wise, pound foolish. That's been penny wise, pound foolish. So it's very important for us to understand this, so that we'll be able to manage each space as it comes. Then look at, we are going to accommodation standards. Organizations often have a policy on maintain or minimum standard of accommodation for each staff grade. Most companies normally have on the organogram, they have a way of depicting the spaces that is allocated to each staff grade, not the names per se, but just the office. Where probably the MD has a particular space allocation, maybe like 30 square meters upward. The deputy DMD will have his own. Executive directors will probably have. Maybe directors will have. You don't have general managers. Probably we have the GMs. We have their own. We have senior managers. They will have their own. The DGMs will have their own. The managers will have their own, and then the general staffing will have their own space allocation. Administrative staffs may work in open plan offices. That's sometimes why managers may probably have some individual office, and the size may depend, may be on a security basis. Business needs look at some offices. Layout design should provide an environment suitable for the business needs of the organization. Once there's a layout design, that layout is supposed to work to improve the business needs of the organization. For example, a cost center undertakes their business on the screen, and this means that they require small desks areas per staff member. They require also minimum document storage because they do most of that discussion on screen, and may have limited requirements for photocopying facilities or printing facilities. The most of the times call centers do not do so much of printing or photocopying. In contrast, company handling paper-based documentation requires large decks for their activities for their staffs, and also requires a lot of storage for records and archiving facilities, depending on how that is arranged, and also have a lot of photocopying and printing works to do. And those printings, and they must also be close to where the workers are working. Also look at staff welfare facilities, which refers to the office staff required access to basic welfare facilities in the office, such as toilets and drinking water. Toilets and drinking water. Sometimes some people feel that toilets are not too important in offices. Wherever you go, toilets are very important. You will always know when you have the call of nature at an odd hour. That's when you know the importance of toilet facilities. Always very important. And also consider the vending or catering facilities for the staffs, a place where staff can make a drink or take a break from their desks. We'll look at that much more into the zone. Look at the breakout rooms. Services. Each desk in an office may require a phone. These are the basic requirements for each office. A computer. These days, phones are no longer as required as we normally do, because the cell, everybody's getting so used to the traditional cell phone. So they could just call you even with your personal mobile lines, or probably the company will probably have a CUG which they can use to communicate with their staff wherever. But some offices still have desk phones, and so that means most of those things, especially the offices, each of the enclosed offices should have desk phone, or even the open offices on each desk, there's supposed to be a desk phone to be able to communicate with people, and either from the reception or for the different offices, so that you don't need to waste so much time going around. In large offices, power data cables may run under a raised floor to the decks. Another alternative in small offices is the use of nano trunking around the walls, which also contain the power data and voice cabling in those trunkings. Other alternatives are used to use ceiling power poles. This can assist space planning on the decks away from the perimeter wall, so you can manage that. Like you see in this picture, there's something that comes all the way from the top to the bottom. That's the power poles, which you can connect your systems to. For partitions, you have open office spaces are often divided up into smaller offices for managers and meeting rooms. You can either do that by drywall partition or use a glaze partition like we can see in the images, and then you'll be able to manage that. For the following factors should be taken into account when you are doing those division. One, the heat and cooling zones and ventilation for the spaces, the lighting and light switches, emergency lighting also in those spaces. Look at the light fittings, how to control that within that space. Also looking at the voice and data cabling, the firefighting and fire escape route for the structure should be well delineated and showed. Then the noise acoustic level, the noise movement from one space to the other should be properly managed so that it doesn't exceed the required decibel. Straight into module 3, space planning process. Now, for when you're trying to plan a space, we need to always, normally we say plan in advance. Plan in advance. Find the right new office space for your business. Finding the right new office space for your business actually takes time. And once a space, a few buildings or spaces have been selected to be considered, you will want to start the space planning process when well ahead of the time before you intend to move. Like if you have an office that you want to move into at any point in time, you probably do this on time so you have enough space, enough time to be able to plan. Take the following steps while planning in advance. Interview various several architects, space planners that are normally space planners, architects that understand spaces. Select a professional that understands. Make suggestions to improve efficiency and flow for the spaces. This will translate into a design that balances the company's vision and also the space utilization, departments adjacent and future growth. There are sometimes in different offices and different spaces where there are departments that work with each other. Some departments, probably like the admin department may work in close relation with probably the design department or something, or the engineering department may work in close proximity with the facility department or something like that. So you can solve this problem with the design that the space planner will give to be able to position for the furniture. And sometimes some offices, like where the head of the teams are in close proximity with the number of staffs that they work with. Sometimes some don't mind, they have all their organs, the directors on different floors, and while the general people work on a particular floor. While some other offices will prefer where each manager sits, or each director sits with his own team. What do you need, especially when you're managing, when you're trying to get a plan? You think first about how your business will use a space that you're going into. We're talking about a new space, how your business will use the place. Will each of your employees need a dedicated workspace in terms of providing a cubicle for them? Can you utilize a more open floor space, open plan, where everybody sits in the open pool and just few of the managers have enclosed offices? Do your business have customers visiting often? When you have a business that have a lot of customers visiting, that means you need to make provision for a large waiting area and a lot of meeting rooms so that you're able to meet with the people that come from time to time in the organization. Your office space should support your business, not the other way around. Think function. For example, you shouldn't be paying for a conference room you never would use in your office space, or hold your meetings in a crappy office because your space does not have enough breakout rooms for collaboration, which is always required from each office. Now, you must always make provision for growth, make room for growth. Company aim to grow and not to remain stagnant. Most companies, we always want to grow and not to remain stagnant. I've never seen a company where people will just not want the company to grow. Everybody wants their company to grow and to be much better. As jobs increase, new business develop. There will be need for more space to house employees in every department. Once job increase and there's increase in spaces, most of the times it helps to ensure that um, everybody understands how the space works and manages that space. Expansion options should be considered when negotiating a lease. Normally, what we have in most leases now these days, especially for those that are renting very large offices, they do what we call you start a clause where there's a sublease where it gives you the right to be able to sublease when you are downsizing, when you are using less space. I remember working for one office in NLG in one of the offices in Victoria Island some time back. They were occupying like 4 floors thereabouts, and there was a time they had to downsize. And by the time they downsized, they discovered that there were a lot of persons had moved from Lagos into different states, some to Abuja, some to Port Harcourt, some to Warri, and thereabout. They just spread themselves around. And then the office space was getting underutilized. There were just empty decks here and there. And they discovered that effectively, after we did a space analysis of what they had, they can compress themselves into 2 floors and work very well. And when they discovered that they were able to do that, and they had a sublease in their contract, they were now able to lease out 2 other floors to other clients to be able to use to work. Just do a little bit of modification and renovation work to be able to manage that change as it comes. A lot of companies always do that. I also worked for something like that for IBM on Churchgate Towers, and as it were, we had such discussions from time to time to manage that. To properly plan for growth, take into account your current headcount. You must always do that. Compare it to your future growth projections, which you will get from management. By analyzing and understanding what the maximum headcount may look like over a 2 to 5 year period of time, you limit any feasible hiccups in the future regarding your company's occupancy situation. Also plan for the future employees now, so that when your company does grow, you will already have a space to put them when they come. Most of the times when organizations are growing, they scarcely discuss this with the facility manager. So the onus lies on you as a facility manager to plan for this growth and ensure that you keep the place ready. So when you have staffs coming in, you have space to accommodate them. Also, there is a risk to planning big in case it fails. If you are unable to meet your growth goals, you may end up having too much space to use. In that situation, you may need to consider subleasing your office in this case, like I've explained earlier, or reevaluating your space plan and see how you can use it better. And be sure there is a sublease provision in your lease agreement that addresses this potential issue once it arises. One of the ongoing debt for a long term is whether it is better to debate. This debate has been going for a long time, whether it is better to have an open office or to have cubicles, closed cubicles for people. With directions you should take, you need to also look at your organization and see how that works for your organization. You need to also look at, should you consider an open office? These following decisions are things that you should look at. Look at that decision strongly depends on your industry. Sometimes some industries allow open office, especially for insurance companies. They have this underwriting hall where you have a lot of underwriters doing their work because they need to collaborate more, making sure your team perform in the open office. Sometimes that helps, while sometimes it doesn't. Do you get better results by your team collaborating or interaction? Do your employees perform better in a focused, productive, driven environment? These are things you need to consider when you're looking at design for an open office. We can't deny that people are working differently these days, but also cannot ignore that people don't want to change their work style. Creating different zones for private focus work, quiet rooms. Sometimes in office they do that, and office open spaces for your team to interact is a good solution to address the numerous situations that you may find yourself on the alternative work style, depending on how that goes. Going remote. And these days, going remote is no longer a strange thing because most offices are beginning to go remote. In fact, a lot of offices now, they don't go to the office all the times. You have probably 3 days or 2 days in, 3 days out. You work from home or wherever you find yourself. You don't need to go to the office. Probably go to the office twice in a week or once in a week, depending on how your organization has structured itself now. With the growth of the cloud commuting system now, many businesses have begun utilizing remote working plans where you can work from wherever you are, whether at home, whether you're in travel, in traffic, you're in transit, you're traveling out of the country, wherever you are, you can just connect to the servers and do your work and then submit your reports as is required to give their employees a bit more flexibility or freedom in working from home or away from the office. If your company has a remote working policy, consider the space utilization ratio, consider the percentage of time the employee spends in the office. When you have a lot of remote, maybe you have about 100 staff in your office or your work environment, and then you have the policy of working remotely. By the time you discover that, oh, you can work remotely at every given time, the office is only half full, or maybe about 50% in the office, or 50 workers in the office out of the 100 that you have your staff. That means you don't need to get an office that occupies just 100 persons. You probably just get an office space to be able to sit about 50 persons at a time. So that anybody that is coming in outside this catchment area, we need to book for a space and be able to work from that space and situation. That will also help the company to save money from real estate. A good idea may be to include areas where the floor plan is flexible with movable furniture. And also special consideration needs to be given to rooms for special uses such as large lunch rooms, breakout rooms, break rooms, and private meeting area. See pictures to try to see the big picture. Once you are seeing the big picture, you'll be able to understand what your plans are and how you need to move. Space allocation options, module 4. Space allocation mode of options, module 4. Space allocation options. I think it will be nice to take a break at this time. Let's just do a 5 minutes break so that we can now go to the next, because we have just done 3 modules. The every 3 modules we take it and we'll come back from the break. I hope that's fine by us. I hope that's fine with us. Yes. Okay, great. We'll take a 5 minutes. We'll take a 5 minutes break. We'll be back up by 6 o'clock. Thank you. System. This is a method of office management in which workers dynamically schedule their use of workspace, such as desks, cubicles, and offices, even meeting rooms also. An alternative approach to more traditional method of permanently assigning seats. Hotel is reservation based on assigned seating. With hoteling, workers are not assigned to their own desks. Instead, they reserve a desk for their temporary use. For just a few days, they are expected to work in the office. Now, for this hoteling system, normally, if in an organization that operates this hoteling system, what happens is that for each time you want to work in the office, you need to call the admin to book for your space in the office so that they will make provision for you. Normally, if the office is full, they tell you, no, don't come on Sunday. You can only come on Friday or you can come on Thursday. If you need to work for like 5 days, you will mention that to the admin, and the admin will make provision for you. Sometimes if you go to those offices where you have not reserved your space, when you get to the office, your card, your access card may not work for the office door because you have not been programmed to work. You can get into the reception, greet the receptionist, and then you won't be able to access the offices because you do not have access to work on that day. So normally that's a new way some offices do that to be able to manage the real estate, the space of their own office space, to ensure that they manage and get the optimal use of the spaces, especially when the cost of the real estate is very expensive. Benefit of hoteling system. It saves cost on commercial real estate. I just talked about that. Also creates opportunity for staffs to mingle and collaborate more, because each time you come, you meet with a different staff, not even the one in your own department. You meet different staffs from different departments, especially when you are working in a very large organization. The another style that we have, another location, is the hot dexing system. Hot dexing is an office organization system which involved multiple workers using a single physical workstation or surface during different time periods. Hot desk is often found in workspaces with flexible schedules for employees. A primary motivation for hot desks is cost reduction during space through space savings, at least up to 30% in some cases being saved. Is viable in cities where real estate prices are very high. Where you discover that the cost of real estate is very high, instead of renting an office of probably 1,000 square meters, you can do that on 500 square meters, and then you schedule your workers to work in on shift, so that when they come, the office space is just open. It's do hot decks. When they come, they're just allocated to decks. You just work and go. Nobody has a permanent desk. They can just come in, work for the time they're supposed to be at the office, finish and go. And sometimes where you have to travel from one state to the other, where you have a lot of movement, maybe a particular organization have offices in different states of Nigeria. So we're going to be in Abuja, in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Enugu, in Owerri, and all thereabout. And you have staffs that move around from time to time. When those staffs will go to their off-station site, they actually allocate them to hot decks so that they're able to work and do the activities. And the hot desk provides everything that they need, just like their normal workspace. Telecommuting also is another option that is being looked at, where you work when a work arrangement in which employees do not commute to a central place. They don't come to a central place to work. They make their discussions through telecommuting. Many telecommuters work from home or from hotels or from different countries, while others use mobile communication technology to work from either coffee shops or even other locations. If you just have your internet working very well, you have your laptop that is good, you can just work from wherever you are, connected to a central server. Sometimes you can even have meetings like what we are having now. We're supposed to we normally have this class in the central point in Unilag, where everybody assembles together in the Max-Migold training center, and we have this class. But because of the advent of COVID and the insecurity and the bastard traffic all around in Lagos, sometimes it's difficult for you to get to the class in good time. We discovered that sometimes those days where somebody will leave the office probably at about 2 or 3 o'clock to hit the class for 5. And at the end of the day, by the time the person is coming to the class, it's already 6 o'clock when we are trying to round up after having left the office by 2. It's quite frustrating. But what we do now with the telecommuting and having these classes on Zoom is giving you enough and adequate time to be able to connect from wherever you are and have a real-time class as we proceed. Telecommuting is used by office employees to work even while they are on a vacation. It's very important that you do that. Benefits of telecommuting is it allows for workers greater freedom regarding work hours and work locations. That is, wherever you are in the world, you can connect, you can have your meetings, you can do everything you can do in your meetings, like what we are doing, sharing our screen, you can do work, you can do your work and share with your colleagues in the office, and they look at it. You can even correct the works of your subordinates. They will send you the reports, and you can walk them through a training even from your decks. And a lot of things that can happen. You can do that wherever they are. You may not exactly be in the office. They can be in any location, but they can be actively working and doing their work to meet up with what they're supposed to do. I also give employees more flexibility to balance work and personal obligations when they need to do. There are some persons that like doing school run. They like to go pick their children from school, take them back home, and all that. They can do that easily. They take the children to school in the morning, get to the office, do their work, and by the time they are leaving, they go for a school run, pick the children and get back home, and then continue their work from home instead of staying in the office all through and then being locked in traffic when returning back. Often working from home can actually make you more productive because you do not have to the distraction of an open office space. And also, apart from that distraction, you save time, the waste of time that traffic will have, especially for people like us in Lagos that probably will commute. You spend an average of 2 hours going to work in the morning, 2 hours coming back. By the time you get to the office, you need some time to get into your work. And by the time you're about leaving the office, you spend another 1 hour thinking of how the traffic is and how to manage your time and manage your space. Also, we also look at the open office, plant space, open office plant, where you use the use of large and open spaces and minimize the use of small and enclosed rooms, such as private offices. Evaluation of open plan. Neither open plan nor closed plan offices are perfect for all situations or for all individuals. The right balance is required. Any office design is likely to involve trade-offs for the workers and some positive negatives, depending on how it works. Some offices do better when they have open plans, while some other offices, they do well when there are a lot of enclosed and closed offices. Like for most chambers, where barristers, where most barristers' office, most lawyers' office, the senior colleagues must have closed office and cubicles, and they should have a lot of meeting rooms that are well padded so they can able to have meetings with their clients when they have confidential discussions where they can discuss with their clients, depending on how it goes. Advantage of the open plan, openness may improve communication and collaboration among workers. It may also enhance the flow of information and teamwork. It increases collaboration resulting from an open plan workspace can lead to business innovation and advancement, reduction in heat and cooling and electricity expenses because you use less of the air conditioning system. Where you have like 10 cubicle offices, you have 10 units of AC, and that same open space, you can also just have like 5 if it's an open office area. Provides greater flexibility to accommodate and evolving personnel needs. Disadvantage of open office may reduce concentration and productivity. Sometimes when you have where there are always noise around the open office, people may not be able to concentrate. Lack of privacy is another potential problem with open plan office spaces where people do not have the privacy to do the work they're supposed to do. Open plan layouts also facilitate the spread of diseases like COVID-19, where people will just be coughing and spreading the disease left, right, and center because they are in an open office. Business of output also may be reduced by the high rate of absenteeism associated with open plan environment in which diseases are spread more easily. Right, may also raise a legal or ethical issue stemming from compromise of confidentiality of information regarding clients and colleagues. If that's not managed properly, you might probably have that kind of issue. Another space that we can also look at is what we call the breakout space. Breakout spaces, a current management fashion evolved at least partly reinventing the office. In such an environment, workers no longer have to have their own desks or workspaces. A quiet area away from the bustle of the workspace where normal meetings can hold for just a quick bite. Office, the breakout spaces are just relaxation areas where you can still have meetings. You can also use that as a work areas, like the picture that I showed me. Just within the office, space, just a step of where you just have soft sitting, where you're tired of your hard swivel chairs or your screens. You can just carry your laptop, go to the soft space, the breakout space, or a soft room, and just sit down and continue your work, or hold informal meetings. It's a space where open to every employee or visitors that is separated from their usual work area to help relieve stress when they are working. Benefits of having a well-designed breakout space can serve several purposes, can provide space for information catch-ups and meetings, just can also have for grabbing a bite to eat at lunch, and also somewhere to greet visitors and clients, not using the office space itself, not using a formal meeting room, or just a soft space to entertain your friends and visitors while you're also working. Importantly, an area where staff can relax away from their PC screens. Promote employee well-being also. It also helps to improve the posture and also help to relieve stress for employees. Now we're going to move management. Move management refers to that our normal way of when you want to relocate, you want to park. Like our language, normally when you are parking from one house to the other, like offices, when you are moving from one point to the other, from one office to the other, you have what we call move management. It's a very critical part because you need to understand that even as simple as it sounds, there's some intricacy to its move, to the move management. The role of the facility manager in move management. In many organizations, office layouts are subject to frequent changes. Such of these changes may also refer to the process we had discussed earlier as churn. These moves are normally planned by the facility management department, where you have staffs moving or they are coming in and you need a larger space or a smaller space. If you're not able to renegotiate your lease, you may need to get another space. And once you are doing that, you need to now understand how to move your present office to another office. The facility manager plans for the following when they're managing a move. One, the minimum amount of space to be provided per staff member we've talked about earlier. We talked about the fire safety arrangement when you're doing the planning. You look at the lighting levels, you look at the ventilation and thermal control levels. You also look at the vending and the welfare system such as toilets and the likes. Reasons for move when there's a move. One, sometimes it's for expansion and growth. Sometimes it's to reduce costs. Sometimes it's to consolidate offices where you have offices scattered into different areas. I decide, oh, instead of having one office in Victoria, one office in Ikeja and Oregon, one office in let's say Yaba, bring everything to Victoria and move all the offices to Ikeja, and then those offices will have to relocate to their new space. And sometimes it may be because the lease renewal or lease expiration, maybe your lease was not renewed, and then you are asked to move and then renew facility. Also, the organization or for better facility, when you are moving from a present facility to a better and more comfortable facility, improve your brand perspective and also enhance your staff morale. Also look at upgrading technology and being closer to clients and competitors. Depending on what the reasons are for the move, it may fall into all of this class. And once that reason is specified, then you know you are ready to move. Factors to consider when vetting office space. There are different factors you need to consider when you're getting an office space. One of the factors that you need to consider is the consistency of power and the cooling system. Consistency of power and cooling system. The electrical system is very important when you're going to check an office space. You need to check all the wiring and the cable, especially for new offices. If you check the DB and then you see any form of smoke in that DB, you know that the electrical system there had a little bit of fire. It's my advice is that you run away from that building, or if you insist on using that building, you plan to rewire that building because you may not be able to trust the integrity of the electrical cabling system of that building. Also, plumbing systems. Plumbing issues are very difficult to tackle. Once you are going to check for a new office and you see any sign of leakage, I always advise that be very really about structure. I will advise that it turns with caution because any form of leakage in buildings these days is very difficult to manage and to handle. You may end up running a rat race from the beginning that you get into that facility. Waste disposal system. When there is no proper waste disposal system in the office you are going to have problem with lumber in Lagos State. So you need to ensure that they have a very good waste disposal system and easy access by the local authorities to come and move the trash that is being generated by the office. Sufficient physical space is very important to note that you have enough physical space to accommodate the staff. Communication services, service providers. There are some areas that they have very bad network. I remember one time I had an office that was working somewhere inside the Abacha estate, and the office that we were working there, some network just don't work there. I think Airtel or there, but they didn't used to work very well. Once you get in there, if you have an Airtel line, you have an issue. Even if you have an MTN line, from time to time, they come to check. However, sometimes the network is not good. So that's also something to consider. Wireless connectivity, you need to look at that. Phone and computer cabling. You have all these, what we call the nano trunkings and how available they are and how accessible they are. IP-based security system. These ones are normally being managed by the company itself. You look at some planning steps when you are looking at a move, when you are managing a move, you need to have some steps. One of the steps, you have about 10 steps here. One of the steps you need to consider is that one, you need to define your reason for the move. It's very important to define why you are moving. Why are you relocating office? You need to define it and ensure that it is clear to everybody. Two, you need to also create a checklist. You need to get a checklist. You need to know your key dates for the move. You also need to set a budget for that move. You need to brief your property agents about the move when you're ready to move. Book your office movers company. There are offices that there are companies that are dedicated. They know they are used to doing movers. They are used to doing moves. So it's always better. I always advise that you contact these companies. And when you contact this company and giving them the award, you must ensure that they get what we call the goods in transit insurance. Goods in transit insurance. This will help to protect you in case there are any issues with the goods that you're transferring from one level or from one area to the other. You need to also have a plan for a floor plan for the new office space where you are going to the space plan. You also need to plan for your IT relocation, finalize your office lease, and then look at the dilapidation or reinstatement schedule. Sometimes you may need to look at the dilapidation schedule or reinstatement. You may need to reinstate the building you are leaving from to the new office, how it used to be before you came in, and then where you can do that. I always advise that once it has to do with your statement, for any company, I always advise them not to do it themselves. Let them just pay the money that is required to do that to the landlords or the property owners. It's easier and neater for that to be done. Then managing office move challenges. Now, allow plenty of time. It's very important to always say that plan again. It's very important to allow plenty of time when you're managing a move. Manage and guide staff through the office move. Play to everyone's strengths. Be prepared for disruptions. Now, when you are doing an office move, it is very important for you to communicate with your office staff. Communicate as regular as possible. Do not assume that they know exactly what you are doing. And do not also assume that they know the new office that they are going to. Because you will find out that most of the times, people is talking from experience. After moving offices, sometimes you see people going to their old location. Even you as a person, individual, it happens to you. I remember moving apartment at the time, sometime in my life. And for quite some time, each time I'm coming back from work, I always drive towards my old apartment, because it was not too far from where the new apartment is. I always drive there. Because when I'm going there, and I say, I don't remember, I'm no longer staying here, Jerry. I'll now reverse and go to my new apartment. Prepare the new location. Preparing the new location. It's very important to prepare the new location to receive the things that's supposed to do. Once you are preparing the new location, you need to create a new office layout plan, like I discussed earlier. This is where your move committee will be helpful. It is always difficult to move into a new space, but when you have to figure out where everything goes for everyone, take time. That takes a lot of time. Make sure that you know where each piece of the furniture will be placed by every staff, where every staff will sit. The more detailed the plan is, the better the way things will pan out. Then office move guide. Take the time to plan effectively. It's very important to take time to plan effectively. You will discover that we are going to be talking about planning, and replanning. One way to make the office move efficient is to minimize the amount of time that the move takes itself. You must ensure that the move itself takes a short time, but the planning must take a long time. The move itself takes a short time, the plan itself takes a long time. To save time, ensure that you familiarize yourself with the new location, understand exactly the dimension of the new office spaces or the new rooms, record the different spaces that needs to be changed and the different formats of the rooms where needed. Make sure they are old and new desks, chairs, filing cabinets, etc. and will be well accommodated in the new office if you are moving those. Ensure that everyone involved knows their dimension, the new dimension of the office or the space they are going to occupy. You just send them the information so that they are aware. Create a floor plan before the office move. Create a floor plan before the office move. Also make sure that every employee receive a copy of that plan so that they can plan adequately and ensure that things move smoothly. So I don't give you unnecessary headache. Communication during an office move with everyone. It's very important that you communicate. Give clear instructions, where each piece of furniture needs to be. That's why it's very good to have the mobile companies. It's easier to coordinate with them. Once you give their team head the instruction, they go to distribute it to every other person. The easier and the more understandable you make the office move to the mover. It's very easy to make this. Most of the times, once you have a moving company, they will normally visit the new site and the old sites and then see how to manage it and marry the different things that they are bringing there. The role of the supervisors during the move. Ensure staffs follow the instructions during the office move. We also create an office for moving guide. They make sure that that every member of staff receives one of those equipment, those information. Employee responsibility during an office move. We will be responsible for their own packing and certain items before the actual move happens. Normally, please, if you are having a move for your company or anybody, do not pack things for them. Ensure that they pack it themselves. Provide them with cartons and tapes so that they put whatever they have into a carton, they tape it off, and sometimes you can color code it and they write their names on it. Loose items during the loose items during the move. You need to itemize inside a shelf, bookshelves, decks, look at wall units, cupboards should be well locked and fastened, and the contents may be securely put into a carton and closed up. Filing cabinets may not need to be empty; they can just be locked properly and then moved. They may need to be locked, like the filing cabinet and secure fastening with strings and heavy packing tapes. Preparing decks for the move. Ensure that all contents are packed. Items such as paper clips, pencils, and all other elements or loose materials should be placed in the cartons. Then glass should be protected with papers and other packaging materials. Moving electrical machines. Disconnect and dismantle computer equipment as specified. Remove all fluids from photocopiers. Make sure loose items are stored and labeled correctly. Make sure loose items are stored and labeled correctly. For the move, we talked about having a checklist. This is an example of a checklist. Office move checklist. You need to check whether the decks are empty. Just a run through. It's not exhaustive in any way. You're supposed to create your own work, own checklist based on what you are doing and based on your own offices. This one just talks about emptying the decks empty, the supply cabinets, are they cleared? The filing cabinet, are they cleared? The drawers, are they cleared? All items, have they been taken down? Breakables, items, are they properly packed? Computer and other machines disconnected, are they disconnected? Do not move tags in areas where we don't need to move anything. Liquid drains from equipment, are they properly covered? Desk pads and chair pads, are they properly labeled and carried? Having a set of spare keys available at every time. Make sure that your internet connection is ready to go and that your phones and the fax machines are working well. They're also ready to go. Make sure the electrical works is done and make sure all the bathrooms are working properly and well. Employing professional movers, I talked about this earlier, you must employ professional movers. They are conscious of how to set the logistics. They understand furniture and the gears that can be anticipated to deal with when changing a professional workplace. They have appropriate resources to help make the transfer secure, simple. And also they have the capacity to prepare the different phases of interface nicely ahead of time. They also utilize color codes to know whether precisely a specific piece of furniture and where that were willing to be stored in new areas. And then finally, the last module, the key consideration for the move process. Office move planning. There are majorly normally we have this the processes that would you will consider when you are doing the office move. We just took the priority to start from 6 weeks before the move and the things you are supposed to check. We'll just break it down and then we'll take our questions. 6 weeks before the move takes place, one of the things you need to do or consider is that you need to meet with the IT department to discuss the time criteria components of their moving their server and their desktop equipment. Assign move coordinators role in individuals within each department. Each department is good to assign having move coordinators for each department so they can be able to discuss with the department. They can talk to them better. You talk to the move coordinators, they discuss with the department people better. You also need to schedule standing up weekly meetings with assigned move coordinators to discuss upcoming move. You need to schedule kickoff meetings. Also advise. You also need to advise landlords of the original and destination facilities in writing when the move will take place. You need to review and clearly define all areas of responsibility. 4 weeks prior to the move, finalize, we've talked about 6 weeks, this is 4 weeks. We finalize the move schedule, review schedule and responsibilities, create employee move pack on instruction, prepare the agenda and content for employee move orientation meeting, identify items of high value, discuss coverage during move with your insurance carrier. That's the goods schedule carton delivery to employee to pack their own personal items in their workstations, schedule necessary staff to be on site during the move, and establish a method of communication for all for the move, either by cell phone or by radio, but you need to communicate to staff regularly on the move. It's very important. Communication is very key. Then also you need to also 2 weeks to the move, we look at the cartons and the labels delivered. Must have been delivered to all the staff members so that they'll be able to put all their personal effects and personal items into the cartons to close it up, tape it closed, and then identify by putting their markers and labels on top of them. Define lost and found areas at new office location. Create emergency preparedness plan for the move in terms of looking at elevator maintenance, building contacts, looking also at the IT personnel and supplying the contact for telephone suppliers, depending on what is required at that time. The move week itself, you need to confirm that all the building reservations are there as required. Conduct supervision orientation meetings with all the supervisors. Complete the various complete review of the labeling and items required for special care. Also walk the space and check the process. Confirm schedule of those who will be on site during the move. Post floor plans, office layout diagrams, and individual placards on cubicles depending on where they are. Survey the new office for any existing damage so that you can capture that in your lease agreement where you need to discuss and see with the property owners. Be prepared to complete final walkthrough with the move supervisors at the old facilities to make sure all items have been properly identified and moved. Fine-tune, clean up, and rearrange the end of the job. And then finally, after the move has been done, you need to manage the inquiries from employees because they're going to come and ask several questions. Make items of make list of items requiring attention as they're bringing it to you. You just write them down. Survey for any potential property damage to the space or the assets. Schedule follow-up crew to post-move the activities. Right here, one of the things I will need to say is that after the move, you must ensure that you go back to the space and check the space properly to ensure that you not forget anything. If possible, do a video of what the space looks like when you are leaving, so that by the time you are leaving, take all the pictures of all the spaces. So when you are handing over to the property owners, everything is handed over in a good condition. It's very important for us to note that and probably work with that. Okay, good. That's the last slide. Thank you very much. So I'll take our questions now. So if you have any questions, this is the time to ask. I'll brush through all your questions. And just raise up your hand, indicate by raising up your hand. I think I'll be able to see you, and then I'll address your questions. Thank you very much. Okay, I can see Raymond. Raymond, please. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the good lecture. When you are mentioning, during the time you are talking about statutory location, you mentioned something like synergy. What's exactly the meaning of synergy?
What? Sorry, I didn't get that.
I said when you are teaching in.
Oh, signage.
Yeah, signage. Yes.
Oh, signage are written signs now, like directional signs.
Okay.
If you go to offices, you see things like exit lamp. You will see those markers on the door that tells you this is meeting room, office areas, open office, admin office, accountant office, and all that. Those are signages.
Okay, this is the way out, all those kind of things.
Yes. I can see whose hand am I seeing again? Okay, I can see Michael. Michael, let's take your question.
When we are discussing space allocation or options, you talk about hoteling, which is a booking or assign of a desk to person.
Yes.
Can we compare this as a co-working?
As what?
Co-working. We have
Co-working.
yeah. There are some places now that you can buy an office for a day. You can pay.
Those are virtual offices now.
Yes.
No, they're different. They're not the same. They're different. They're different. Okay. They're totally different.
Okay.
Yeah, because that is an outside, you rent that. While for this one, all the space belongs to you, to your organization, and your organization now manages it yourself. So you have the contact of the admin. You just call in. Probably if you have to do some work in the office, probably today is Wednesday, and you plan to do some work in the office, maybe next week, Monday or Tuesday, you just call the admin and say, oh, I'll be in the office for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Could you book me a space? That when I come in, I can have space to work. And I'll be working for 3 hours each day. So the admin will book you a space and send you the space that I booked for you, that you'll be able to work for 3 hours per day. So just something like that. Okay, Akindele, please.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Okay, good evening.
My question goes thus: in the course of movement, an item got lost, and
yes.
The movement was being contracted to an outsider. So how do we handle the situation? And you actually find out that the item is actually missing. So how do we balance it? Who is going to bear the loss?
Okay, you remember when I was discussing this, I said it's very important that you have the goods in transit insurance when you have your move company. That goods in transit insurance cater for things like this. Once there's a loss, it is the insurance company that will pay. And it is the mover company itself that will get the insurance. So the owners will lie between the mover company and the insurance company to ensure that the item that is lost is either replaced or found. If you do not have time for them to be looking for it, they will replace it and continue their investigation behind you. Your own is that you have gotten the item replaced and you have moved on. But the company, the mover company and insurance will sort themselves out. That's why it's very important to have the goods in transit insurance. It takes care of things like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Another one is that you made mention of the standard size, 8 point something. I couldn't get it very well.
I said between 2.8 meters to 3 meters.
Come again, sir.
2.8 meters, square meters to 3 square meters.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, somebody is asking and saying, I hope I've answered your question, Olusegun.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right, good. I think I'm seeing Lillian. She's asking a question that what is vetting office space? Vetting office space is just to check before you probably hire or rent the office or before you move to the office. If it's an office that you have to hire, you need to normally vet the space to ensure that the office is good enough. I mentioned that things that you need to check. You check for. Hello. Okay. More questions, please. Sorry, my network went off. I don't know what happened, but I think I'm back on. Do you have more questions? I can't see any more hands. Okay, Kingsley, I can see you. Let's take your question, Kingsley, quickly.
Okay, my question is, when you were talking, you were talking on downsizing of space. You mentioned
yes.
In that process, if I'm the company downsizing a space, if my lease has not expired, I can release that space to another person.
Yes, it's called sublease.
The sublease. Does it not alter the original policy of the landlord and the first person who leases the space?
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, that normally in your lease agreement, the agreement that's given, there's one clause I would normally like that you add. It's called the sublease agreement that allows you and empowers you to be able to release it once you have that kind of situation. If you do not have it in your lease agreement, then you cannot do it. But if you have it, you can do it. Even if you do not have it, you can use your opportunity to discuss with your the property managers or the landowners or the landlords or whatever they call them, and let them know that this is, you need to have this embedded in the contract. They may, if you, by the time you are doing that, they may increase your rent a little bit, but it's always better to have that sublease clause inside the lease agreement so that it gives you the power to sublease. Sometimes for people that are very effective and know what to do with the sublease, when they are downsizing, sometimes they lease out the part of the office that can almost cover the entire rent that they're paying. So they're actually gaining from the office space. So it's very important to slot that into any lease agreement you have. Whether you have done it now or not, at any point in time they are getting a new office, or whether you are renewing the lease, is something that I always advise that is done. Let's see, Bamidele, please, let's take your question.
Thank you very much, sir. The class was really interesting, and I learned a lot on the topic, space management. I want to ask a question quickly. Regarding the space management, is it the facility manager that normally do the space management, or the architects in the facility management department that normally, you know, on how the space are supposed to be designed, and, you know, the sketch of how the space are supposed to be in different, what is it called, floors and different departments? Is it the function of the facility manager or the architect?
Okay, I'll answer this way. For a company that has a very robust facility department, that has an architect there, normally the architect will manage that. But the architect just manages that in-house. But for small firms that don't have that, the facility manager is actually in charge of managing the architect itself. You might probably engage a consulting architect to do that design and manage the spaces for you. If you have an in-house architect that has the in-house competence, of course they'll do it, but it's always better to have a consulting architect from outside that will probably have more experience to be able to design the space while you manage the architect and ensure that they meet up with the requirements and expectation of your organization. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right then. Okay, any more questions? Okay. Barakat, where are you? There are no more questions. If there are no more questions, I want to say at this junction, thank you very much for your time. I hope you have learned one or two things from our class today. And wherever questions you have, please write them down and send them to the secretariat. We would attend to them as it comes. And we are always open to answer questions that you may have with your facility and to advise you, like Mr. Paul said at the inaugural class, you have a lifetime of mentorship. Anything you want to be able to advise you accordingly to be able to handle the situations you have. Thank you very much for your time and do have a good evening. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Enjoy your night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.